Well, because that's big, you have to know its position for distance.
Right. The incompatibility.
Impossible.
Sorry, you're talking about the incompatibilities of the two geometries, I believe.
John, you're roboting. Drop and rejoin.
And the speed of light is a huge number. And if you're going to take a huge number and times it by a huge number, you're going to get an even bigger number.
You're going to need an R value for that. Yeah? You're going to need to prove that Venus is the same R value as Earth in a presupposed orbital value. You're going to assume that R is based on the R for Earth that can't be measured. So this is riddled, my love. It also doesn't give you a compatibility with fourth dimensional space-time bending in Euclidean 3 space for Newton. You're still wrong.
And so if you divide a term by such a big number...
Where'd you get the third and fourth dimensions crossing over? You don't.
You essentially get incredibly close to zero. So in most cases, that term's just not going to matter at all. For example, here on Earth, throwing a ball up into the air, that term vanishes to zero. And except when either the mass is very large or the radius is small. So for example, in Mercury's case, Mercury is very close to the sun, which is very massive, so it makes a difference. It also makes a difference around massive objects like black holes. And we were able to test that properly for the first time.
What's this? Is this a photo? Definitely not. Now, I question whether or not I've left on the button that says go live immediately to get the problem working yesterday, so we might have actually gone live. If that's the case, we'll just pretend we haven't, and then on the hour I'll do the intro like nothing happened. No, we have. We've actually gone live.
Live, though.
Yeah, we have. Oh, God damn. Normally what happens is I press the live button and then it'll queue up the preview. And then I know the preview is working. And then on the hour I press go, start the intro music. But for those of you who are watching now, this wasn't intentional. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined, although we've started 5 minutes early unexpectedly, by the Adam Meakin, 10th Man Rising, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Yo, let's get it on.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Feeling,
Buenos días, buenos días.
So I must remember to turn off the auto start button. So when I press my button on my Stream Deck, it typically links, as I said earlier, just before the show started, right at the beginning. I won't repeat myself, but yeah, that was a bit of a cock up. I'll have to turn that button to not auto start for Monday's show. Anyway, good to be here. Any evidence of what haven't we covered in a while? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well,
Well,
has
it's like
it ever been
techno.
they have a name for heavy objects in medium falling through the medium, so medium dependent, and they call it gravity. So what's the purpose for that? Well, I think a better question is, why do they need it?
I'm not following along with your example. You said things falling through a medium. What about if you got like something at the bottom of a lake and it detaches, then works its way up to the top? That wouldn't be falling. What about if you release a helium balloon? That's not falling. What about if you watch clouds forming? That's definitely not falling. So I don't really follow your example there, Tenth.
The medium. No, it's the medium I'm talking about. So obviously those examples are wonderful, but so-called apple that fell down and hit Newton on the head, it didn't go up, it went down because it's heavier than the medium. It's more dense. So why do they need to call that gravity?
Okay, there was a town in Wales that they flooded because they wanted to build a dam. And in that town, there's churches and town hall and little houses and all the rest of it, right? And just coincidentally, one of them had an apple tree. They filled it up with all this water, right? And then this diver swam down to the bottom to have a little look. And there was this apple tree with all these apples on it. And as he was watching this apple tree, one of the apples happened to detach from the branch, and it went up. It just happened to go up in this lake where this diver was, where this submerged town is. So there you go. I mean, not all apples go down. I mean, there is a very specific example, but that's an example of an apple not going down.
Yeah,
It's definitely going up. You bob for apples, don't you? They float.
Yeah, but you're clever here. I'm talking about the medium. There is water. The medium, when you're not in water, is air. So why do they need to call it gravity?
Because they have to have a reason for us to be standing on Earth and not floating away.
It's a bastardization of the etymology of the word that means what it does in literal terms. Weight, gravitas. Right, well, weight would be an accurate description of what they're actually describing. But weight applicable to solids in the medium of air. So it has a more specific example, but that's where they get the terminology, like gravitas. Okay. But the gravity that we experience is a movement of the goalposts when you talk about fall arrest. So fall arrest in gravitational terms is 1g. When you're not doing anything, you're at 1g. What about when you're falling? Not in fall arrest, right? Not moving, falling. Well, that's 0. Really? On the scale, that's 0. Yeah, scale's got a 0g. That's when you're falling, right? And if you fell around Earth, it could constantly, you'd be in an orbit, right? But you'd be floating around on a ship, floating around a presupposed spherical Earth in an orbit, right? That's 0g. They just move the scales. But weight is what they're really talking about.
Well, I had more in mind their whole monkey ball, space religion, water ball spinning in all different directions at tremendous speeds. But the vacuum of space and what's keeping everything on this ball. I'm thinking of this big lie of theirs.
Let's ask the next question. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
It's worse than that.
Negative.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quick shout out to one of our guests that's just joined. So Arwin recently got a strike, so he's actually got a second channel.
Hello.
Hello, Arwin. But I'd like you all to check it out. So Arwin Bear is the name of the channel. He's only got 100 subscribers. It'd be nice to get it to 1,000, so you can actually have. My bad. I'm just plugging your channel. That Arwin interrupted me. Right, so check him out. Right, I'm going to post a link to the Flat Earth Early Bird that went out today on this channel, so you can all go and subscribe immediately to this channel. Now, Arwen gave me a bit of shtick saying I wasn't sympathetic enough for the copyright strike he got when I advised him to just go and look at the rules and make sure he don't break them again. But here's my making up for the lack of sympathy that Arwen perceived. Definitely not the case. So be here or be sphere on the Arwen bear. That's A-R-W-I-Gen. Oh, let's try that again. I just read it and read it. If it's not Arwen bear, it's Arwinian bear. A-R-W-I-J-N-I-A-N space B-E-A-R. So Arwinian bear is the name of the channel. Subscribe today. There's a link rolling by right now in the live stream chat. So just click on it now, like as in right now, and go and subscribe. So if I don't see the numbers down, I'll be disappointed that you haven't all gone immediately and done this. There you go, Arwen. Happy?
Thank you, Nathan.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it was just I was just so shocked in that moment, and you just, yeah. I mean, it was just all of a sudden, and in retrospect, I understand why because it just came out of nowhere. You didn't expect that. You were just planning the show, so I was really in a bad place in that moment. So don't worry about it. Thanks for the plug.
That's all right. If I seemed overly harsh, that I apologise for, but the sentiment and what I said, I still stand by. You know, go and check out the rules. Go and look at the terms of service. Familiarise yourself with whatever it is they claimed you were breaking when they took down your video for bullying. Just read that section, and then hopefully you'll never have the same problem again. Anyway, so single viable hypothesis, Arwen. Any of the fields of sciences that are in the pseudoscience brackets that we point out got any gravity evidence? Just out of interest.
No, they always go digging in math anyway. It's just like, oh, gravity. Well, it's not a force supposedly, so let's just do a bunch of calculations and imagine how things are all relative to one another or something. It's a complete waste of time, really. Like all these videos supposedly explaining gravity, they don't really lead to anything. It's
Speaking
just,
of which,
oh, they make you think, and then you don't have an answer, really. But it made you think. Ooh.
So we're just covering now Becky's video. So what I'd like you to do, as always, in the vain hope that someone like Becky would respond to us and put a link to my video in theirs. In the spirit of good YouTubing, there's a link to hers. So go and click on Becky's link. There's a lot of go to people's videos right now going on in this show at the moment. We're only 10 minutes in. Anyway, yeah, go to Becky's video and let her know. Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, YouTube channel, responded to your video. Why Einstein, quote, wrong? Was Einstein wrong? Testing new theories of gravity. Why would there be new theories? Right, theories. Let's not get into it. Anyway, check her out. Let her know we sent you. And hopefully, if she was to make a response to us, she'd put a link to my video in hers. Chance to be a fine thing.
Wait a minute.
Oh, just
Why don't
literally
you
when I
wanna
pressed
get
the
into
first time I press play. Go ahead.
It would be me who would stop you pushing a button. I mean, the irony of it all. The whole point is they say new theories, but then when I hear Michio Kaku, he says, it's just leaps of logic. So the theories that these mathematicians have are seat of the pants, leaps of logic, because no one in my field understands the scientific method. So the theory and the scientific method, which you were about to go into, is not the same as this type of theory that Dr. Becky and her cohorts are talking about. They're talking about seat of the pants guesses, right?
Right. That's why they're going to have a new theory of gravity.
Back in 2019, thanks to the Event Horizon Telescope. Everywhere and every way we've been able to test general relativity, its predictions have been right. So everything from planet orbits to pulsars to black holes to gravitational waves, it's all evidence in favor of Einstein's theory of general relativity.
So a concept described in a mathematical language labeled as pseudo, that's pseudo force space. You're saying that the evidence of the gravitational lensing lends more credence to the very geometry that concept's born out of? No, my love. What you're doing is you're looking at things that occur in the sky and describing pseudo-geometry to them, and then suggesting, with an affirming the consequent fallacy, that the thing that you've observed in the sky proves the pseudo-geometry that you described it with. It's called an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. If A, then B. B, therefore A. Right? If Einstein's fourth dimensional pseudo-Riemannian force-space bending as a result of the uneven distribution of mass, then this effect in the sky. Well, what do you know? This effect in the sky, therefore pseudo-Riemannian force-space time bending. My God, love.
Those equations that he came up with are thought to govern everything from the
But they're thought to govern. The equations, that's a language, that he came up with, that's invented in his eye, mind's eye, just conjured, right, are thought, that's what, the cognition of people, to govern, what, have control over. So pseudo-maths invented by Einstein governs some sort of physical reality. No. The descriptions in maths do not govern anything. They can merely describe things. Now, they can describe real things, and they can describe non-real things. Now, after describing non-real things, you could go and ascribe those non-real things to the things that you see in the sky, and then assert that the things that you see in the sky prove the non-real things in the pseudo-geometry invented by Einstein, because they're somehow governing those lights in the sky. What a load of crap. Shout out to Godzilla37 though, thanks for the super chat. Just got out of the bank. Turns out I can't afford this. I bet you're one of my biggest supporters, Godzilla37, the amount that you drop on super chats. If it's putting into debt, then don't give me super chats. You know, that's the last thing I want. On the other hand, thank you for the super chat. Please support the show. Thank you, really, really do appreciate it though, in all sincerity.
expansion of the universe, to the behavior of black holes, to how gravitational waves move through space.
But all of the descriptions in the pseudo-geometry are being proven by what you observe after declaring that it is the description in the pseudo-geometry. Never ends.
The formation of every single structure in the universe.
So, no. The formation would mean that the pseudo-geometry had some sort of governing effect on it. No, descriptions in pseudo-geometries don't govern how lights are formed in the sky, Becky. Now, maybe you want to look up what pseudo-geometry is. That's the Einsteinian fourth-dimensional space-time. You've got bending and gravitational accretion to make these lights in the sky form? No, there's no governing of these lights by pseudo-geometry. Au contraire.
From the smallest planet to the biggest galaxy to the biggest clusters.
Sorry, the biggest. Your scaling values have come from an R value that's been debunked. That scaling value using an R value that's been debunked was applied to Venus, a light in the sky. What, was it a big light in the sky? Well, it was the same size as Earth, says Christian Huygens. When we assume Earth's a sphere, as we can't measure it, debunked 2020, Black Swan. Well, when you take that size of Venus arbitrarily decided by Huygens to be the same size as Earth as a sphere that you can't measure, you can then apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion to give you scaling values. And at that point, you can declare how big things are. Yeah, maybe you can detect from the tone in my voice that your declarations of how big things and how far things are meaningless, Becky. Meaningless. There's nothing governing these lights in your pseudo-geometry. Even if it was, apparently we're going to be getting a new gravity. What, so this old dusty nonsense about how things are governed by fourth-dimensional pseudo-geometry isn't quite right. We're going to get a new version. Yeah, what a shock. And Newton's gravity is 108 years out of date now, so that wasn't right either. But was that governing how we pulled to the ground 108 years ago? No, that weren't governing anything either. Your maths doesn't actually dictate how physical reality behaves. It can only describe it at best.
Of galaxies. But what about the areas that we...
Good.
It's saying that gravity is creating energy to form things. It sounds diverse.
I agree.
I absolutely agree. I mean, she is definitely doing that, John. I mean, I couldn't have put it better myself. And thank you.
We've not been able to test general relativity.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's governing stuff. You know, test, in scientific terms, would be the actualization of a hypothesis. And a hypothesis would establish the natural phenomena, dependent variable, that you observed in nature and want to know the cause of, and your supposed cause of it. That's an independent variable. But you're saying you can't test it. Well, that would mean you couldn't form a hypothesis. Oh, how funny that we ask daily for your fields of science, in quotes, to give us hypothesis. Yet you can't test. Yeah, it's because you can't form a hypothesis. Yeah, because you got it the wrong way around. Because you have pseudo-geometry telling you what's governing the lights in the sky rather than you testing what causes the effects of the lights in the sky. That would be actual science. You don't do that, do you, Becky? No.
Nathan, was that an admission that 108-year-old general relativity has never been tested?
Yeah.
But I thought she said it checked out. Right before that, I thought she was saying everything Einstein said, they checked it out and they proved it.
It can't be tested also. So no hypothesis-based experimentation for this mathematical reification. Oh dear, I'm devastated.
For example, around bigger and more energetic objects.
Well, like the ones that we just debunked in terms of the scales given to you by Kepler and Huygens and R, that was debunked in 2020 by the Black Swan. Yeah, we debunked every aspect of those meaningless scales and sizes that you're going to give us here, though, Becky, haven't we?
The entire universe, perhaps. Or on the opposite scale, the tiniest objects in the universe, such as particles, the quantum level.
Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
Just general relativity.
Did you just cut to a guy criticising you for hijacking actual science of quantum mechanics by putting the word in front of everything? Do you guys, what pseudoscientists like Becky, just put the word quantum in front of it? Yeah, they do. That's a very interesting criticism that she's edited into her own video there, isn't it now, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, they do. Because quantum has been scientifically validated. And what, the new hotness of gravity, what, the third type that she might give us in this video, or the second type that's Einsteinian that hasn't been tested, or the Newtonian that was debunked by the Einsteinian. What that is that the bit that you're going to put quantum in front of? Yeah, that's exactly what she'll do. Is that a guilty conscience much, Becky? I think so. Someone want to add something?
Yeah, they're grimy. These pseudoscientists are really grimy. I was going to say they're going to link quantum mechanics into this to validate their story of gravity somehow.
Well, it's already there. It's called quantum gravity. We've already seen videos on it.
There. Well, we assume it does at the minute because of all the scales we've been able to test, it has held. But what?
Sorry, test. The scales that you've been able to test. Sorry, you don't test scale. Scale, like in Kepler's third law, isn't something that's testable. It's a scale. So what are you babbling about? In science, a test is an actualization of a hypothesis. Do you know what science is, Becky? Do you think you test scales? Scales? That sounds quite a lot like measuring things, doesn't it? Is it just me, ladies and gentlemen of the audience? Scale? Does that sound like measuring? Test? In a scientific context, that would mean hypothesis test. That's an experiment. Yeah, this ain't that, though, is it, love? No. You're just duping people with maths.
What we're doing is extrapolating there. We're saying because
that sounds a lot like maths. Extrapolating out what? Things that govern the stars? The arrogance is off the scale with these pseudoscientists.
It works on the smaller scales that we've been...
Works like physical. No. You're confusing the descriptions in maths and pseudo-geometries with things that actually do work. Yeah? That's not tapping emails out and calling it science. I'm talking about real work, as in physical work. Something you're definitely not accustomed to. Yeah, you're used to hypothesization. Yeah, reification. Mathematicization. That's what you do, love. You don't do science. Yeah, so you're not going to be doing any tests that govern our world. That's left to the physics department, not you. Definitely not you. Shout out to Original D-Rose. Responding to the title of this video, what if we were our socks over our shoes, would we walk and run faster? He says I butcher a super chat, but that's so out of left field. You know, as you're reading it, you're not expecting that to be the sentence, are you? Let's be honest, heroes. But I really do appreciate the support.
Nathan, didn't she just say a minute ago that the Einsteinian was untestable? Now, for 108 years, they've been pushing it, saying it's real, and now she wants to test something?
Scales.
Been able to test, it must work on even smaller. And because it works on the biggest and the most...
What works? Again, here's this word again. It works. What works it doing? Show me it doing physical work. Show me something in physical reality happening at all. You've not done that.
energetic scales we've been able to
Isn't she
test.
referring to equations that work in math rather than physical reality?
Talking about energetic scales. She's juxtaposing reality with pseudo-4 space, and she's going to steal valor from quantum mechanics shortly.
Must work on even bigger ones than those. But just like how Newton's equations work perfectly on everyday scales here.
They worked perfectly? What? Do I need to read out Feynman quote again? Why not? As Quantum Eraser went to the trouble of actually getting it for me. We had the same problem when we were dealing with lawyers when they're being hoodwinked by mathematicians claiming to be skiing scientists. In this case, we've got a declaration of how accurate Newton is. I mean, what the hell is going on? Quote, the discovery of quantum mechanics first, and then in the behaviour of light, and then in the behaviour of matter, finally culminating in 1926 with a full equation of quantum mechanics which told us that the laws of motion of Newton were not right and had to be modified with other laws, which are quantum laws of motion. Richard Feynman, Nobel laureate physics.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
The Globe Man responded. He said that you stop every 4 seconds, but he will respond to you tomorrow.
He already did respond. He left me a comment. His comment was, I'll respond tomorrow. Oh, right. You know, when I leave a comment responding to somebody who's made a claim that I'm wrong, I would leave a comment saying, this is how I'm right. Yeah? That's what I did in response to his response, saying he'd respond later. All right, Globe Man, you'll respond later. That is your... To say you'll respond later is your response? My God, this guy is so stupid. He just irritates me. Yeah, that was your response. Your response was to say you'll respond later. Okay, well done. Yet meanwhile, if it were me, I would have actually responded with something. I criticised something we said, where we pointed out that you had a misapprehension of winds turning. Maybe correct us. You'll respond tomorrow. That's your response, Dumbo.
Nathan, for the audience sake, why do you, not just on his, but others, stop every 4 seconds or so?
Because that's about how long it takes to make fallacious reasoning in these idiots' videos.
Here on Earth, but then don't for other scales such as large masses and small radii, then you might...
What is this masses and radii? Where are these? What masses and radii? Just conjuring crap.
I also start to think, well, what if that's also applicable for general relativity? What if there's also some scales where you need that extra term?
Is this applicable to something untestable? I wonder if this thing I'm conjuring is applicable to something untestable.
Maybe. And you need to
Yeah,
alter...
it's basically saying she can drop balls and do Newtonian stuff, can't she? That she can measure, and it matches. Doesn't describe, but it's she's happy with it. But when she goes to space, she's trying to describe the behavior of planets and stars, and she can't test it. That's I think when she's talking about scales is the scale of things. So,
but as always, like with Globe Man, Share in the love and the YouTube algorithm. Go and help Becky in the algorithm. Let her know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And this is in the vain hope that she would respond in kind and actually do the same for me by putting a link to one of my videos when she criticises me. Not when she leaves a comment saying she'll respond tomorrow. I mean, that's lovely and all, but obviously we'd prefer Becky just left the link to my video were she to respond, given that we every 4 seconds have to interrupt her because she's postulating pseudo-geometry governs the physical reality. Yeah, that's going to get interrupted. You don't have to like it, globe believers. If you'd rather hear her wittering on about how non-physical pseudo-geometry governs our reality, then, I mean, obviously go and watch her video. Let her know I sent you. The link's whizzing on by in the live stream chat right now. Hopefully she'd do the same for me.
I think the point she's trying to make here is that when we're doing basic stuff, Newtonian works, but if we're going to go and do the maths for planets, it doesn't work. And this is her claim here. We're going to need the extra term. That term being time, I'm assuming, to move it into Einsteinian from Newtonian. So the only way you can explain it now is to incorporate this extra term, which allows your maths to describe the things that you're observing, which previously it didn't do correctly with just a three-dimensional Newtonian view.
Shout out to Sasha Unitox Femme, who says, when I grow up, I want to be Newtonian Stein. Thank you for the super chat.
General relativity in some way in order to make accurate predictions. Now, you might be thinking, this is very interesting and all, Becky, but like, this is just speculation, so why should you care? Well, understanding gravity has huge implications.
Understanding the untestable gravity. Go on, Adam. Sorry.
Well, I think she validated it. So she's saying that the only way to make predictions that work is to go to Einsteinian. And then saying, why should I care? This is made up anyway. It seems very convoluted to just justify the use of Einsteinian mechanics now and not Newtonian, which is just previously said was acceptable on the small scale. I'm trying to understand a point, if I'm being honest. It seems like an okie doke, the best I can see, to justify using Einsteinian for predictive qualities. And that's the thing she keeps coming back to, that the ability to predict something gives validation to its ability to describe or explain.
Adam, it's almost like a tacit confession here, because she's saying Newtonian was superseded by Einsteinian. We never really tested Einsteinian, and now we're having problems with it. And we're going to have to come up with something else, which is the quantum gravity. We all know it's going there. Okay, stealing valor. And then she says, talks in the third person and says, Becky, why are you doing the speculation? Well, it's speculation because you got nothing.
Shout out to D Rose. He says, someone tell Globe Man that make it Saturday on this Discord and not tomorrow from your TikTok channel when we're all off for the weekend. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
For how we understand how the universe was formed, how it's evolving, and what it's made of as well. It's a branch of astrophysics that we call...
The claim is, if that maths can predict, it means we understand the universe. That's the leap of faith she's having, isn't it? Suddenly, if I can twist the maths, put an extra unit of time in, and to enable me to predict something that I'll observe, that now means I understand the universe.
Cosmology, With general relativity proven on all the scales that we can test it on, it's
double speak much.
Scale?
What? Go on, Adam. Sorry. You take the reins.
Well, there's the claim. She's now gone to. She's proven general relativity on the scales. Where has she proven relativity? She started saying she hadn't. It hasn't been at the beginning of it.
Exactly.
Saying it's unproven. But now it's been proven on all the scales she can prove it on. That we can test it on. You know?
If they,
But that's
if they,
not
if
true
all,
either.
No, that isn't true, John. Go ahead, Adam.
it's
it was Brian.
I meant Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, everyone, if all this was proven, then how come she's looking for new theories locally? You know, what's this video about then, Becky? If it's all proven, why would you need to make this video?
Well, because
Actually,
she
the
said at
problem-
the beginning it wasn't proven. She
Yeah,
said there weren't, all the tests failed.
Perfect. We've come full circle. Yeah. Double speak much, Becky?
in cosmology that I've talked about before on this channel about the current sort of crisis in cosmology that's going on.
It's current crises, right? Whereas in science, you've only got empirical outcomes for the tests that you do. There's no arguing with an empirical outcome if you follow the scientific method. You just don't do it. So suddenly you have crises in these fields that we ask daily if you've got scientific evidence. That is to say, any hypothesis from those fields, including cosmology. Right? We don't get them because you haven't got them. You don't have any science. That's why you suddenly have crises after you've been telling everybody that everything you say is correct, and then next month you'll have a crisis about it. Yeah, that's the problem when you make crap up.
Electrify your metabolism back to...
Whoops.
One of the things that the universe, such as particles, it's made of as well, is a branch of astrophysics that we call cosmology. With general relativity proven on all the scales that we can test it on, it's actually the problems in cosmology that I've talked about before on this channel about the current sort of crisis in cosmology that's...
And a shout out to D-Rose. Correction. Globeman, make it Monday to show up on this Discord server with your comment and not send your comment from your TikTok channel tomorrow. I mean, I appreciate the super chat, D-Rose, but no offence to you, you're not the boss of Globeman. He can do whatever the bloody hell he likes, let's be honest. You know what I mean? I appreciate the super chat, though.
Yeah, but he's sending comments when nobody could respond. Get him, D-Rose.
Unitox Femu says, oh my god, I can't believe we're going to drag my wife into this. That's what my wife said about her. Okay, I'll read it out. Unitox Femu says, look at her hands when she's explaining. Yeah, she gets a bit of the old claw hand going on. That's what my wife said. Now, what's with her doing all this claw hand movement all the time? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why she does it.
It's going on that is actually driving forward the need for a slightly altered theory of gravity.
So, let me get it right. It's right on every scale you can test, but we need a slightly different... Why? That seems counterintuitive. If it's proven on every scale, why would you need anything different? Surely it's perfectly adequate. Oh, no, of course not. Now we've got a pie chart with how much dark energy. What's dark energy? This sounds like something very problematic.
General relativity is correct.
Is it? On every scale you can measure?
Then it predicts that 96...
Predicts. In science, a prediction is a hypothesis. That's why we ask for them. Yeah? Predicts the cause and effect relationship that you want to figure out if you've observed something happening in nature. That's a prediction in science.
6% of the universe is dark and does...
Remember when I said Vic Reeves? Yeah? 23% of all statistics are made up on the spot. Vic Reeves.
Doesn't interact with light. It predicts that dark energy...
There's that word again. Predicts. Hypothesis in science, love. Yeah? Look it up.
Energy makes up 70% of the universe And we don't know what that is. It's this mysterious force or energy.
So you don't know what it is, but you know what the percentage of it is.
Yeah. No.
I don't know what it is. How much of it is there? Yeah, I know how much there is, but what it is, I don't know. It could be anything. How do you know what percentage of it that you've got then? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I know what percentage we've got. What?
Energy that's
She's read by the model.
It's worse than that, is it not? Right? Because once they figured out they needed 73% of that, they then realised that there still wasn't enough, so they had to have another dark thing and have a percentage of that just to balance. And remember what this is for. This is to correct the thing that is already proven to be correct. Yeah.
Remember Michio Kaku breaking this down statistically in terms of how wrong they were. Yeah. That was priceless.
Well, the thing that they've got, if you look at that pie chart, that scientific pie chart, you can see that the thing they're talking about there, where the calculations work, is that 4%. That's the bit where the things work. But for the rest of it to really work, they recognise how wrong it is, and they need all the rest of that pie chart to make it work. You know, all the things she's just disclaimed, all that matter that doesn't interact with light, that nonsense she's just claimed, that's 73% dark energy is the bit that doesn't interact with light, but it's there. Why is it there? To make the numbers that don't work, that do work.
dark energy makes up 70% of the universe, and we don't know what that is. It's this mysterious force or energy that's acting against gravity to cause the expansion of the universe to speed up.
So the untheory, the non-tested, is acting against the dark energy, or vice versa. The dark energy's working against the pseudo-geometry. I see. So the pseudo-geometry that's very complicated for us to understand because we can't understand the difference between a two-dimensional screen and the three-dimensional reality we're actually experiencing all the time anyway, and we didn't have to use our imagination to experience it. And therefore explains why we have a fourth dimension that's only described in the mind's eye of Einstein that he invented. And then you have reified into a dimension that we can travel through and governs the known universe, even though it isn't tested and can't be tested, but is simultaneously tested on every conceivable scale. And right, even though we've only got about, 5% of the known physical matter in the existence of your universe existing next to a counter force of dark matter that counters the pseudo force that was invented by Einstein. Okay, we're all clear. Glad we're up to speed.
Nathan, is this the negative gravity I've been hearing about?
I don't know, Neil, maybe.
Then the other chunk of the dark universe is dark matter. There's so much evidence for dark matter. It's
so much evidence for it? Really? Show me. Show it us.
The evidence is only there for the math because it's literally intangible and invisible and undetectable. So how could you claim to have physical evidence for that?
My bad, Darwin. That standard was unreasonable. Me wanting physical evidence of things that exist in the physical reality, studied by physics. You know what I mean? Why would I want that? I need to have it physically demonstrated within the maths. I mean, it must exist in the maths. There's so much evidence in the maths that it must exist. My bad. Obviously, Arwin. Silly me.
all gravitational in nature, i.e.
Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I say they need all that extra mass, right? Whatever mass is, because there wasn't enough of it in their universe. So they had to invent dark matter. They needed it. So it's proven because they invented it.
There was such a massive imbalance without it. Therefore, it has to be there to balance up the pseudo-maths. It can't not exist because the pseudo-maths wouldn't balance, Brian. Didn't you listen to Arwin?
That's basically it.
We don't see it with our eyes necessarily, but we...
Not necessarily. Oh, right, okay. Show it me then. If we don't necessarily see it with our eyes, I mean, that means that we might be able to. I mean, obviously, we're talking about physics, aren't we? This is the physical. Oh, my bad. This isn't the physical. This is the pseudo. The pseudo-Riemannian force space time bending. Right, okay. We're not going to necessarily see this stuff with our eyes. I gotcha,
We
gotcha.
see its influence due to gravity.
Oh, we see how influential it is when it's governing things. What, the bending pseudo-force space that Einstein invented? I see. This is back to the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy I explained earlier now, isn't it, Becky?
So all of those things, dark energy, dark matter, really do raise the question of whether general relativity that has served us so well.
Served us? What did it do? Show me what it did. How did it serve us? You know, again, like the Globe Man yesterday, I gave an example of how utilisation of a flat plane, ascertaining horizontal with the horizon, so that you can acquire the GP way beyond the horizon of a star or the sun at its GP position with a flat plane between you and it, can save your life. That's like work, stuff that you can do with it. You know, serving mankind for not dying at sea. So I would like to see where this has served us well, other than served you well. Yeah, that's what it's actually done. This nonsense has served you well while you talk shit about it. It's paid you well, hasn't it? It's put all this crap behind you. Every bit of crap behind you's come from this. That's what it's serving. It's serving you. Show me what it's served for me or any member of humanity in practical application. That's physics. Not in maths. Don't tell me how dark matter must exist because there's a massive hole in the maths that means it must be there. That's not what I mean. I mean, has it served anybody with anything useful ever? It hasn't.
No, it served them well as a waiter in a restaurant. Was really good at bringing her drinks. Yeah.
Please share the show, by the way, if you're watching live. Big shout out to you. Almost 100 people watching. It'd be great to get over 100. How long have we got left? About 20 minutes. Is that right? Is my watch wrong?
Get it? Gravity is a waiter. Get it?
Waiter. Yeah, whatever.
So far, and all the scales that we've been able to test it on, is maybe not the full picture. It's not that.
Sorry, so all the scales that you alluded to it being right by, because you've tested it on every conceivable scales that there is, but that may not be the full picture. So when you said every scale, you were lying. Because that's not the biggest of the pictures that you could observe. Therefore, there's more scales. That's maths, by the way. That's not physics. But you were just lying earlier. Because you made it very clear that it had been tested on all conceivable scales, but now it's not the biggest of pictures that you could take in terms of the scales that it hasn't been tested on. Yeah, just a double speaker, aren't you, Becky?
Einstein was wrong, just like Newton wasn't wrong. It's just that in the scales that we're looking at, it just maybe needs modifying slightly.
Modifying meaning it's not right? Like, Newton wasn't right in the way that just was quoted by me in terms of what Feynman said about it being unequivocally not right. Yeah, we know it's not right. Meanwhile, we got Einstein that we're all told is right. Bending pseudo-geometry, that's right. But maybe we're not taking in the biggest of pictures here. Maybe for it to serve Becky, we need to modify it. We need to change our story. Just a little bit. So it can serve Becky, not people. This crap serves nobody.
So there are currently astrophysicists in institutions across the world that are trying to come up with new theories of gravity and
Sorry, coming up with a theory in science means you've applied the scientific method after observing natural phenomena, formulating a valid hypothesis, testing said hypothesis in an experiment, and then forming theory. But the people who get paid and this crap serves them, they're coming up with new theories, are they? Well, like Einstein came up with this tosh, right? Yeah, for us to be maybe needing a wider picture to assess than Einstein's tosh that he came up with, his theories. We need other tossers to come up with new ones. So this crap that they peddle can serve them. Line Becky's pockets. That's what's really going on here. Yeah, I dare anybody to show where this has actually served anybody with anything useful, other than lining Becky's bloody pockets.
Crucially, test whether
Nathan,
they are.
Yes.
Just quickly. Well, if you think about it, since 1915, since Einstein led the way, all these people have done and are currently doing, and she's admitting to, is coming up with stuff that keeps them in a job.
Yeah.
Without this, they wouldn't have a job, as you're pointing out. That's all they're doing. They're coming up with the things they need to come up with that keeps their field relevant financially.
Yeah, keep her pockets lined.
Right. And don't think like this is a new thing either. Like physicists have been trying.
Physicists? No, physicists deal with the physical and natural world. That's exclusively the purview of the natural sciences. So, no, you'll be dealing with the scientific method if you're a physicist. Yeah, these people who come up with this crap, they're not physicists. Yeah, mathematicians. Yeah, we would call them fantasists. Because often we're told how much right they've offered us with their nonsense theories, colloquially in nature. Yeah? And we go, how's this right? Oh, well, actually, it's not. We just didn't assess the broader picture. Pay me, that would be Becky, to assess the broader picture. Why? What will it give us, Becky? Will it serve us? No, it won't. No, it'll serve you. Like it served these people. It doesn't matter if they're right. It doesn't matter if Einstein's not right. We can just modify it after it served him. Not us.
To, make general relativity better.
Better? Wasn't it right already? Oh, no, of course it didn't matter. I mean, you can be as wrong as you like. And then people who get paid, like you, will make it better where it wasn't correct. Yeah? Do I need to read out Feynman's quote again about how not right it was? Well, we can make Newton better. We can roll out Einstein. Yeah, he could give you new theories. And when they're not right, we can modify them. We'll pay Becky to do it. Why? Well, no reason at all, really. I mean, it's not really advancing humanity in any way, shape or form. We're not benefiting from any of the crap they give us. Literally, it doesn't serve us at all. But Becky will have a very nice house at the end of it. Let's be honest.
Some edits, ever since Einstein first proposed it in 1915,
They proposed the stuff that he didn't have a wide enough view for, the stuff that needed modifying, the stuff that was essentially not right also. Well, I'm sure it served him very well.
Everyone from Eddington to Dirac to Sakharov. So like I said, the majority of these new theories are modifications.
Not theories, love. They're not based on experiment.
Or extensions to Einstein's theory of general relativity. Because
extensions? If it was validated by science, it would be empirical and there'd be no modifying it. That would be the end of the matter. But Becky will still need paying. I mean, there's all sorts of work that can be done here, right, Becky?
Theory of gravity you come up with still has...
Come up with? That's right, Becky. You need to come up with more, don't you? We need to keep paying you to come up with this stuff that won't be wrong and we haven't seen a broad enough picture for and needs modifying after you're dead. Right, Becky? Because it'll all ultimately be wrong. Not right, incorrect, made up, not valid, not empirical, not science.
To work, as well as general relativity has on...
How well has it worked again? Are we going to see practical examples of how well it worked?
All the scales that we've tested it.
That we haven't got a broad enough picture for, and now subsequently need to modify because of the lack of a broadness to the pictures that Einstein was asserting. And we've tested on all scales, but simultaneously can't be tested. Double speak much, Becky? We need to keep paying her for this, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah? This is very important work. Stop criticising Becky's physical attributes, says Original D. Rose. I don't know what you mean. I'm criticising her argument. Me anyway.
On. But sometimes...
1 second, Nathan.
Yes?
Yeah, sorry. I would say that I wouldn't be far off if I hedged a guess that she hasn't looked through a telescope at the sky for over a year. I would say mostly what she sees is diagrams and gets reports and papers and peer-reviewed papers, all based on things that no one can actually see out in the universe that they created themselves. Because I reckon majority of these people aren't at observatories looking at something that you can actually see.
Of course not. She's studying bar graphs and pie charts and then disseminating that crap to us.
People have been known to basically just crumple up everything we've currently got and throw it out the window.
After lots of money was spent on it and lots of people like you got paid and they had lots of nice houses to live in, and then after the fact, after everyone was paid and everyone got fat, they just crumpled it up and chucked it in the bin. Lots of yummy money spent to just throw it away. Right, Becky? Yeah, I propose we just throw you away before you do any of that. Before you get a dime for doing any of that crap. Yeah? Just sod you off immediately. Yeah, before the expense of having to crumple it up beforehand, before you write it down for us to crumple it up after the fact and chuck it away, I prefer we just binge you off immediately. That you stop getting paid to peddle crap about pie charts you've read in emails. Yeah? That's what I would propose. Yeah, do away with the devastating expense of people like you. Yeah, the entire departments can all go. Every single one of them that can't offer scientific validity for the crap they peddle should be fired. Every last one of them put out of a job, including you. Yeah, offer some valid scientific evidence for anything you've claimed in this video, or be fired. That would be my world that I lived in if I had the charge and the reasoning based on reason and logic and empirical evidence. I'd say, no, you haven't got any of these things, Becky. And why would you waste anybody in humanity's time? You're not worth anybody's time unless you can provide some of these things you claim to be science. You've talked about physicists. So give us some physics then, Becky. That'd be cause and effect reasoning established through systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis as valid with a null. So we've got empirical outcomes. If you haven't got any of that, then you're worthless. Don't talk about how much expense went on stuff that people then screwed up after the fact, chucked in the bin.
Nathan, can you go to Master D? I've got 3 screenshots of this video that I want to bring up. A word that she keeps using.
Good.
All right. So the first one here, as you can see, it says structure in the universe from the smallest planet to its biggest galaxy to the biggest clusters of galaxies. But what about the areas that we've not been able to test? The key word is test. General relativity, for example, around bigger and more energetic objects. Okay, go to the next slide. The sun orbits the Milky Way, and also how stuff moves around black holes. Every test, here's that word again, we put it through has passed with flying colors. So does that mean that we can just sort of pat ourselves on the back and brush our hands and all go home because job's done? We are still testing gravity. That word again, last slide, final. Objects like black holes, and we're able to test that properly for the first time. Okay, let's see. What do you got? When we had that first ever image of a black hole in 2019, thanks to the Event Horizon Telescope. In science, testing, hypothesis, manipulation, can you do that with a picture?
No, it's not even a picture, it's a composite.
So all of this is a world that they create in math. And as Brian says, whether she has or not used the telescope herself, wouldn't matter, because it's like, oh, I already have an assumption of what I live in, and I'm going to test it by this image or this latest view from my telescope. That's that housekeeping question we got. Do they have a viable hypothesis?
No, they do not.
And start from scratch, which I'm sure that sounds overwhelming, as does trying to adapt general relativity as well. So how do people actually go about doing this? Well, here's 3 different ways. Number 1 is starting from an observation and working backwards from there.
So completely ignoring the scientific method, which starts with an observation of a phenomena and then works forward from there by supposing the cause of that phenomena, varying it to see if it causes it, and then forming a theory. But you work backwards. You see an observation of a phenomena, and then you make up a story, decide how that came to be. Yeah, that's the first way. Yeah. We're familiar with this way.
Theories like MOND, modified Newtonian dynamics, have started with this.
Newtonian dynamics? Why would we be using those when you modify things that aren't right? I mean, that seems a bit wrong, given how it is wrong and the laws of motion of Newton were not right. Again, quote, the discovery of quantum mechanics first, and then in the behaviour of light, and then in the behaviour of matter, finally culminating in 1926 with a full equation of quantum mechanics, which told us that the laws of motion of Newton were not right, and had to be modified with other laws which are quantum laws of motion. Richard Feynman, Nobel laureate physics. So why would we be using this, Becky?
This idea that dark matter...
So we're not going to test by experiment. We're going to use ideas about things that you can't see and can't test and are only necessitated by maths not working. I see.
might not necessarily need to exist to
It might not necessarily need to be existing in the physical reality that we test with physics, might it not? Wow, Becky, give that woman a house.
explain something that we've observed. So one of the...
Sorry, you just said it didn't exist in physical reality, so why would it have anything to do with anything that's observed? You can't observe this! Double speak much, Becky? Double speak much?
strongest piece of evidence for dark matter is the idea of galaxy rotation curves. So this...
Right, we can't see it, but something else that is going to be described as a bending geodesic in a pseudo-geometry would be akin to something you can't see and only is necessitated by a big error in the maths that's wrong, that will be screwed up, chucked away, after lots of people got houses out of it, right, Becky?
speed that stars are moving around the centre of a galaxy.
According to the heliocentric begging assumption that you've got about what the sky is.
When we look at a
Nathan.
galaxy,
Yes.
Leave them alone. They're showing their true colors as pseudoscientists. You expect them to act like real scientists and follow the scientific method? You're asking too much, Nathan.
I'm more interested in seeing this thing that she claimed that they saw, which was this galaxy curve thing. Who saw this?
all the light is concentrated in the centre, pretty much. That's where the brightest spot is. That's the same as what we see in the solar system, right? 99% of all the stuff in the solar system is basically the sun's mass. So when we look at what speed the planets are going around the sun, we see that speed drop.
Well, we don't see the planets going around the sun. Yeah? We see the sun in the day, and we see the planets at night. We don't see them going around the sun. This is your heliocentric assumption. Right?
We don't actually.
Pardon, Brian?
We don't. We see what they call planets at night.
Sure, whatever they get labelled as, I don't care. We do not see them going around the sun. That is a fact. That will never be seen. It cannot be seen. It is ever going to be seen. It's merely the assumption of the heliocentric model. However, in literal and physical terms, you with your own eyeballs, or anybody in the known existence of time, will have ever seen planets move around the sun. You, as an audience member, maybe this hasn't dawned on people, right? The heliocentric model can be debunked by the following statement. The sun at centre model has planets moving around the sun, and this is something that we can never, ever experience or see. There you go. That's the end of the heliocentric model. It's a model that has planets, that's the things in the night sky, moving around the sun. That's something in the day sky. So the stuff in the night sky moves around the stuff in the day sky. No, that doesn't. Yeah, that's fundamentally incorrect, and also the very basis of the premise of heliocentrism. Sun at centre. Helios. Heliocentric. Sun at centre. All things move around the sun, when in reality we see the sun move across the plane of our horizon in the day, and then we see the stars follow a similar pattern in the night. We do not see the solar system model. We cannot see that, ever. Facts.
Drop off as we get further out. So we'd expect to see the same thing in galaxies, but we don't. That speed...
Sorry, this is what she does in her emails, for those who are saying, what's she doing? This is what she does. Does she look through telescopes? No, she gets emailed this graph. And then she puts little Ashtons on it. That's what she does. Yeah? This is Becky's job. This is what she's paid to do. Look at her emails. And this is what are in those emails. This crap. Yeah?
Speed actually increases.
Like the speed? What, the speed as in the time dimension? Does the time dimension increases? Because that would be an aspect of a time dimension if you're talking about speed. Right, it's relative to time, isn't it? So it's relative to the dimension. So is this showing us the fourth dimension in the pseudo-geometry that necessitates the dark matter? Is that what this shows us? Wow, I don't see fourth dimensional time in this, Becky. I mean, maybe I'm missing something.
As you go out to the outskirts. And that
Outskirts of what? Space and time?
That suggests that actually, instead of the mass being concentrated in the centre, there's actually a load of mass on the outskirts.
Like what mass? You talking about lights in the sky? Sorry, have you weighed them? What's mass? Maybe you could define some of these terms for us, Becky.
But that's not where we see stars, so it's assumed there's lots of dark matter out on the outskirts of a galaxy.
Gotcha. So if I say Narnia energy, where there's not stars, there's Narnia energy. I mean, we can crumple this up and chuck it away later, so long as you pay me and I get a house out of it, like Becky does. It's only reasonable.
But that's all based on the assumption that general...
Based on assumptions. See, in assumptions in science, you've got the cause of an effect being assumed. Yet to be varied to prove it or disprove it. Those are the only assumptions you'd make if you're following the scientific method, Becky.
Relativity is right. What if we had a different theory of gravity? Would that...
A different theory?
Hang on a moment.
Go on.
Didn't she say earlier that, and she said it more than one time in this video, that general relativity passed all tests with flying colours. Now it's the assumption that it's right.
Yeah,
I know I'm pointing out stupid
No,
stuff.
she said she said on the smaller scale it works, but on the larger scale it doesn't. I think.
She's,
Isn't that what they
she's,
said about
she's
Newtonian?
double speaking, Brian. She's double speaking.
that be able to
I know
explain these galaxy rotation curves. And so that's what Mond tries to do. It actually starts with Newton's equations, not Einstein's. Those are...
Oh, Ace, it starts with Newton's equations. Right, what, as in the laws of motion? All right, let me quote Feynman again. ... With a full explanation of quantum mechanics, which told us that the laws of motion of Newton were not right. I think that's clear.
out Einstein's completely. And it actually says, well, what if we just
Right, it ignores Einstein's completely? Why?
added this extra little factor into Newton's famous equation F equals ma? This...
So let's just
Well,
read a different quote from Feynman. Quote, even though the law F equals ma is false and all derivations of Newton were wrong for the conservation of momentum, in quantum mechanics, nevertheless, in the end, that particular law maintains itself. End quote. The Feynman lectures. Are we not clear? I just repeat the most important bit again. Even though the law F equals ma is false and all derivations of Newton were wrong. I think we're all clear about this, right? Yeah, but this dude will be getting paid. Now, it doesn't matter how wrong Feynman points out that his modification of this base principle that is not right, end quote. I mean, we can just screw it up after he's been paid and chuck it away, right? Spare no expense for this wrong foundation, right? Spare no expense.
Einstein's completely. And it actually says, well, what if we just added this extra little factor into Newton's famous equation F equals ma? This factor, though, only matters for very low acceleration, the kind of numbers we only ever see for stars orbiting around galaxies.
What, in the heliocentric model with an assumption of orbits? So if we beg the question and we use something that is false, end quote, Feynman, or Newton, which were not right, yeah, if we use that, then we've got a problem based on the assumptions of orbits. No, we don't assume orbits. That's all nonsense that's based on an R value that's been debunked. Kepler's third law, to give you your scaling values and your sizes to give you these speeds that you say it might not jive with. Yeah, all of that's bunk.
Then the speed that Mond predicts that stars...
So the speed that Mond predicts, And you'll need R, and you'll need Huygens, and you'll need Kepler, and you'll need orbital assumptions.
Should be going around the center of galaxies is exactly what we observe. But crucially, it also predicts what we observe for planets going around the sun as well. So
can you show me that? I think I made it explicitly clear about 3 minutes ago that you can never, ever, ever observe that. Planets going around the sun. What we observe for planets going around the sun, end quote. Becky, show me. I'll give you £100 million. I'll give you everything I own. If you can show me planets, those are the lights in the night sky going around the light in the day sky. Show me that. Yeah, you can't. When she says the predictions, what she means is orbital assumption-based predictions. What she's actually said in literal terms can never be shown. Ever.
So it kind of seems to solve the problem of dark matter.
Kind of seems to solve problems, right? You're not going to show us it. Can't be shown.
The problem, however, is that it doesn't get rid of the need for dark matter entirely. You still need it to explain the masses that we see in, for example, galaxy clusters. So it started
How have we got to the position where 73% of the universe was made up of this thing to us now not needing it anymore?
I don't know. Beats me.
If you confuse the audience enough, Adam, then they won't see it when your paycheck comes into your bank account.
it out as a theory to explain away dark matter, but it can't get rid of it entirely. It can only sort of reduce its majority
let me get this
percentage.
Right. 73% of the universe was made up of this thing because it was needed to correct the relativity, which was proven to be correct. But because we've added in a little factor into Newtonian equation when we're talking about the speed of stars in at the rotational points of galaxies, this negates the need for this thing that made up 73%, or we don't need 73% anymore. We can have a little bit less because of this extra factor we add into a Newtonian equation.
What's dark matter, Adam?
No, that was pretty good.
No, I understand.
No, that's excellent. Well done. That was a good summary, Adam. Yes, you're highlighting the absurdity of it in your summary, but yes, that was a very good summary. Go on, Neil.
But what is it? I'm asking what it is. You're describing something with mass, but what are you describing to me? What's dark matter?
Oh, you can't see it.
I told you earlier. It's something they made up, so they know it's there. They know it's there because they made it up.
Indeed. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also, of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. Shout out to LF for a late super chat right at the end of the live show. He says, I'd give Adam or Quantum Eraser $100. No, $100 million if they can show me an isolated virus causing cellular damage. Thank you very much indeed, LF, for the super chat.